Thank you, everyone. So once again, welcome to the session Crack Prelims 2022 in 120 days, starting from scratch. Now, this session, I'll tell you first to whom this session is aimed at. There are certain people who are just starting the examination or who are doubtful that they will be able to clear this time itself. So they are prolonging their dream to the 2023. Now, through this session, I am going to empower those students who want to give a serious attempt this year itself. Now, before I start, Prelims 2022, it's very near, around 129 days are left for the examination. And in this session, I'll tell you in a realistic way what are the things that you should be doing, as well as how you can do those things. Now, without wasting much time, let's start. So the first thing I want to start here, like you must have heard about this quote: your faith can move mountains. This is a biblical quote, actually. I'm not promoting any religion, by the way, but this is a biblical quote. And your faith can move mountains. Literally, this is false. If I'm wishing a mountain to move, I'm just wishing. The mountain will not move. This quote doesn't mean that. Rather, faith can move mountain means that you need to believe. So when you believe you can do it, how to do it will automatically be developed. This is something I want all of those students who are attending this session. I want all of you to keep this in mind. Believe each day that you can clear this examination. And this entire thing, right, throughout this session, if you don't remember anything else, I just want you to remember this one thing. If you believe you can do it, automatically, you will find ways to do it. Now, if I want this mountain to move, I cannot just wish the mountain to move. Rather, I will find a machinery with which I can move that mountain. Similarly, you will also find your own ways. And in this regard, I'm glad that you're all here. That's your first step. This itself shows that all of you want to clear prelims 2022. So once again, just repeating it, please believe you can do it. That's the first step. And in this session, I'll focus on answering these three things: why, what, and how. And not just this prelims examination. Rather, when you take anything in your life, any decision or anything you want to do, these three things should be very clear for you: why, what, and how. Now, when it comes to prelims examination, first let's answer why. Why are you preparing for this examination? And why should you prepare? I can say numerous things like status, power. Like, I'm not going to talk about any of those things. Is this your dream to become a civil servant? Is there a specific reason why you are preparing for UPSC CSA? So you all must be having this one reason. It must be very personal to you, right? The reason why you are preparing and why you want to be in the service. There can be innumerable ways. Over my past years of 7 years of experience, I've heard so many reasons. And I want to tell you that I may not be knowing you personally. I may not be knowing your personal reason. But whatever that reason is, please hold on to that tightly. This coming 130 days, this why is going to lead you through all your hurdles. Whenever you have self-doubt, please remember this. So this part of this session is easily over. This is the one and only reason why you should prepare for this examination. Forget about the result, everything else. This is your dream and you're going to do it and you have a reason. Okay. Now, let's move on to the next part. What? This is where I'm going to help you out a lot and in the second part as well. So, suppose if you want to do something, the first thing in that is to know what you need to do. So here, you all are here to clear the UPSC CSE 2022. And if you need to clear the prelims examination, the first step in the UPSC CSE, you need to know what that examination is. So here in this discussion, I'm going to limit myself only to the prelims angle. And I'll tell you what you can do in the remaining time, which will enable you to clear this examination. Now let's start. The first foremost thing, it is the syllabus. You must have heard about this in numerous like YouTube strategies and other sessions. Yes, you cannot clear this examination until you prepare based on the syllabus. So here on screen, you can see the prelim syllabus given here, and main things, please go through these highlighted things, right? Current events. Then we have history part. Then we have geography, polity and governance. Then we have economy and social development, environment, and general science. So these are the subjects that you should be studying for your preliminary examination. And out of this, different subjects have different weightage. Different subjects have different weightage. So each of these subjects, right, when it comes to prelims examination, each of these subjects is very important that will enable you to clear the paper one, right? Paper one in prelims, there are two papers. The first one, general studies, and second one, the aptitude paper, which we call it a CSAT, right? You need to have qualifying marks for the CSAT. So in this session, I'll also be showing you the syllabus of CSAT as well. So here you can see the syllabus of CSAT, the paper two, right? Civil services aptitude test. So in this part, you should be focusing on there are comprehension, there are interpersonal skills. Then basically, when you think about the entire syllabus, there are three things that you need to do. One is the aptitude part, where you will be focusing on numerical aptitude as well as there will be logic and reasoning will be there. Apart from that, there will be comprehension. So there are these three key parts for the CSAT. And since this is a qualifying examination, out of 200 marks, right, you have to just score 66.6 marks to clear this examination. So even though I just said just score 66.6 marks, in the last 3 years, this qualifying paper is being used by UPSC as an elimination paper. So many candidates take CSAT in a light way, and what happens is that during the examination, they panic and it becomes difficult. So I want you to prepare CSAT in advance itself. It depends on how you are strong in, say, maths or not, and whether where you are strong or not, or whether you are strong or not. You should be investing on a daily basis, little bit of time in CSAT. Forget about the passage and the comprehension part, right? It's anyway going to be tough. I want you to be strong in two areas, aptitude and reasoning, and you will be able to clear this examination, CSAT paper. I'll show you why I said that towards the end. I'll show you. Wait. Anyway, so as of now, we have seen the syllabus. The prelims is having paper one, the general studies paper, and it has 100 questions, right? The paper one has 100 questions, and each question carrying 2 marks, and 1/3 marks will be lost for the negative, 1/3. And when it comes to the CSAT paper, there will only be 80 questions, and each question will be carrying 2.5 marks, right? So anyway, so since you have seen the syllabus, this doesn't tell the entire story. Should understand that this entire syllabus cannot be covered within the time frame. Even if you take 1 hour, you will never feel that it is enough. You will always feel that there are more things to study. That is this examination is all about. But in the remaining days, we can focus on few areas which are very important. If we invest time in those areas, there will be more output from it. And which all those areas I'll tell you, I'll show you. Now, before going to that part, right now we have seen the syllabus part, right? So here, how much mark you need to score. So in the 2020, the official key has been released for the 2020, and the cutoff is 92.51. All this cutoff is based on the general category, right? So when you look at the percentage, it is just 46%. So even though there are 100 questions, you don't have to make all of them right, which means all entire syllabus don't have to be covered. If you smartly pick or choose areas which are more productive, right, you will be able to clear this examination. Now look at this cutoff. In the last 5 years, maximum it has gone up to 116. So the variation or the range of the cutoff is between 92 and 116, right? It is between 58 percentage and 46 percentage, right? So the entirely, as I told you earlier, the entire syllabus don't have to be covered. You have to smart in choosing the topics. Now on screen, you can see the topic-wise analysis of the like the subject-wise analysis of these previous questions, prelims-based previous questions, right? So here predominantly you can see that there are these main subjects where economy, Indian history and culture, Indian polity, geography, environment, and science and tech. Predominantly, the questions are coming from these areas. And then there are areas like IR, society, and in recent years, they even started a new category, sports, right? Anyway, if you really look at this number, this itself shows that you need to focus on these areas. I need not say that, right? There is syllabus, and when you go through the previous question, you understand that what is the weightage of each of those areas. So we have read the prelim syllabus earlier. Based on that, this is the productive, like a number of questions that would be coming from each and every subject which you have seen earlier, out of which you can see here, say economy, almost 1 by 4, right? Questions on an average is actually economy, was economy, but they changed the pattern in 2021, right? Only 15 questions came, but meanwhile, right, meanwhile here you can see environment suddenly jumped from 12 to 20. So these variations will be there and we cannot take risk. For example, here you see economy, the last year they only asked 15. So would you leave economy completely out, or will you prioritize environment over economy this time? Even though each and year the pattern will be changing, or the number of questions that are coming from these subjects, each year that will be varying, doesn't mean that you cannot leave out or you should be leaving out any of these subjects. So these 6 subjects, and out of which I would say these 6 subjects, science and technology, geography and environment, polity, history and culture, and economy, these are the areas in the remaining time that you should be investing more time in. Now, this is the analysis of CSAT paper. So earlier, we have seen the paper 1 syllabus, paper 2 syllabus, right? And we have also seen the paper 1 previous question analysis. And this is the paper 2, the CSAT paper analysis. Now, here I have divided into, you can see here, mental ability, right? Mental ability, then numerical aptitude, analytical reasoning, logical reasoning, and comprehension. Now, look at this. Comprehension is having, on an average, 25 to 30 questions are coming from comprehension. And let me tell you, that's going to be difficult. Now, if you don't have the language as of now, it's difficult to develop that language in the remaining time period. I don't want you to focus on that. Rather, any comprehension question that you solve, see it as a bonus. But I want you to be strong in reasoning as well as aptitude, as well as this mathematics related topics. Because if you study those topics and if you're getting a question from it, you can easily answer it. And you can be sure about it as well. You can be sure that, okay, this is the answer because you got it through a proper way. And this is the answer. Fine. So regarding CSAT, remember this, you have to be strong in 2 areas, right? And it has to be the reasoning part as well as the numerical aptitude part. So far, we have found answer for 2 things. The first one is the why part, and the second one is the what part. And towards the end of the session, I'll also be giving you the next 18-day plan. I'll give you, which in a week, what you should be doing and what you should be reading, right? So stay tuned towards the end of the session. Now we are going to talk about how you can do this. So we have seen why you should prepare and what we need to do. What is the demand of the examination that we have already seen. We have seen the number of questions that has been asked from CSAT as well as the general studies paper, and from which subjects predominantly the questions are coming. These areas we have already seen, right? And the first thing regarding how to do this is a principle called as 80 to 20 principles. 80-20 principle. Now, what this means is that when you take smart 20% of effort, 80% of the output would be coming from it. So when we apply this in anything you do, like say, suppose if you're taking a project, a core 20% of that project would be the toughest part or the most important part. And 80% of your outcome will be coming from that 20%. Now, when we apply this to the examination, there are certain parts of the syllabus that are favorite areas of UPSC, from which frequently the questions will be coming, or the number of questions that are coming from that topic would be higher. So if you invest time in that 20% of the syllabus, you will be able to answer most of the questions, right? I will not say 80% of the questions, rather around 60% of the questions you will be able to answer with this approach. And we have seen earlier the cutoff is just between 46 to around 54 percentage, right? So if you can make 60 questions right, that's enough. Okay. Now, how to implement this? How to implement this 80-20 principle in respect to the prelims examination? So first thing, there are areas from each and every subject from which most of the questions are coming from. So when I say this, this is based on the topic-wise analysis of each of those subjects. Now, when we consider the economy, all the questions that are being asked from economy, if we divide them, if we segregate them into these areas, right? So here you can see one green area and lighter green area, right? Light green area. So these one, the bright green areas, these are the areas I want you to prioritize. Most of the questions, or every year there will be numerous questions from external sector, money and banking, public finance, and agriculture. Especially in recent years, agriculture is being given higher importance by UPSC, right? So these areas should not skip at any cost. As I told you earlier, the 80-20 rule, the 80-20 principle, invest more of your time in this four topics regarding economy. Study them first. And second priority can be given to these light colored areas. This should be done only if you complete the or after completing this initial topics. So your priority should be given to those four areas, and the remaining four ones can be given less priority. See, in this way, most of the static topics from which the questions are coming from economy would be covered. And obviously, there will be questions outside this. But if you need to study those questions, more effort and time will take from your side, and you will be leaving out priority areas of some other subject. I hope you are clear about it, right? So this is one way in which you can complete the syllabus in the remaining time period. Based on the previous question, right, which is available in our website, you can just visit our website, go to the sections previous question. Each subject detailed topic-wise analysis has been given there. So you can go through each of those areas. You will understand from which topics predominantly questions are coming from, and focus on those areas and study them first. Now, the next question I want to ask you, are you a perfectionist? I'll tell you this, perfectionism will not work when it comes to this examination. Each of these areas, when you're studying, when you're reading something, you will be thinking that, okay, I need to read the other part as well. But if you're going for that mindset, the perfectionist mindset, it's going to be difficult for you to complete the most relevant and the most important parts of the syllabus. So please keep aside your perfectionism and please be conscious about it. Okay. So one round of this entire subject has to be finished, right? Okay.
Before we move on to the priority topics of remaining subjects, the strategy said in this session is applicable or is relevant for you even in case you're not joining the paid program. And in case if you want the help regarding this, how to study these priority topics and test and other current affairs, you can join our paid program, which is Focus Prelims 2022, where we'll be exclusively focusing on prelims. The entire 6 subjects which we discussed or which I told you earlier, all parts of that are covered in our program. The syllabus based video classes will be provided for you, and you can pick these priority topics from this video lectures and you can watch them first. Apart from this, we provide under each video, we'll be providing the PDF study material with previous questions in it, so that you will be understanding whether that topic is relevant or not. Moreover, we cover around 30 tests along with this course. It has subject-wise test as well as it has CSAT test. Also, there will be 4 current affair tests and paper 1, 10 paper 1 GS full test also will be given along with this course. Now, moreover, we also provide the personal attention for each and every student who join with us through the Zoom application. Regularly, weekly, there will be classes, live classes through the Zoom, where the mentor will interact with you and will give you a weekly target to make this possible, to make this target, or to make you watch all these classes. We will be giving you regular guidance through the Zoom application. Also, you can clear the doubts through the Telegram application. So this is our focus prelims program. Now, without even joining the course, you will also be able to clear the prelims following the strategy said in this session or discussed in this session. Now, if you're joining the program, it will become more easier for you. Okay. Now, if you want to join this program, the course fee for this, or the fee structure for this program, is between 20,000 to 45,000 rupees. So based on the different plan you want, you can choose your course fee between 20,000 to 45,000. And if you want to join this program, please click the link given in the description if you're watching this from your mobile, and you can directly talk to our inquiry team, or feel free to contact us in this number 9446334122. Now, since we have talked about the focus prelims, let's move on to the remaining priority topics from different subjects.
Now, moving on to the next important subject, which is polity. Now, based on polity, every year, as I told you, there will be questions from parliament and state legislature, union and state executive, judiciary, and fundamental rights. So, judiciary, this time there is a higher chance that more questions will be coming from it. And based on like the events, current events happening in news and around us, these topics every year there will be questions from it. Okay. Now, certain other areas in, say, when we consider the last 2 years, there are more number of questions from DPSP. Right, 5 questions has come from DPSP in the last 2 years. So it is gaining more importance. Similarly, the other part, mostly the student will be leaving out these part, introduction and union territory and citizenship. In recent years, every year there is 1 or 2 questions coming from it. Similarly, preamble and the salient features as well. So predominantly, the logic is the same. The green colors achieve first. Finish them first. Then you move on to this part. So every subject, first you finish the economy, the green color topics. Like the most important topics, you finish that from economy. Then you move on to the polity, you finish those topics. Right? So priority should be given to that. Or in a week, suppose if in a 1 week you are studying economy, study those primary topics first. Then allot the remaining time to the remaining topics. In that way, you will never miss out on the most important topics. Even if you are unable to finish the entire subject, the most important subject you would already finish. You will not be, those topics will not be left out. That is the basic aim behind this approach. Now, moving on to the next subject, history. So in history, you cannot skip any part of modern India, right? Predominantly in history, we have modern India, then we have ancient, medieval, and art and culture. Among them, every year, most number of questions, almost around like, say around 40% of the questions coming from history will be coming from modern India. Now, focus on modern India completely. Okay. Now, in medieval and ancient, you can skip a lot of area. As I told you earlier, the Buddhism and Jainism, like these priority areas in other subjects, this is one area every year there will be question coming from it. Similarly, Indus Valley civilization and the Mughals. Now, the less priority should be given to the art and culture. And another way in which you can cover, now if you do this approach, you will be leaving a lot of ancient and medieval part. But to cover those areas, it will take a lot of time because the syllabus is very vast and we will not get much question from those areas. But still, if you do this one trick, if you go through the terminologies given in the NCERTs, starting from the lower standard to the 11th standard and 12th standard, there are terminologies, some boxes given in NCERT. I can assure you that at least 2 questions will come from those terminologies which are directly given them in the NCERT. This is a key part of our analysis by the history faculty. And every year, he has shown me with examples, every year there are questions coming from terminologies which are directly given in NCERT. So you focus your studies and more time on these areas and finish the remaining topics through the terminologies of NCERT. So in a way, the basics of the history part would be covered. Now, one good suggestion I have for you regarding the modern Indian. Many people like they read Spectrum, and there are some people who read Bibin Chandra. Now, when you read modern India, one of the predominant ways in which it becomes difficult for you is to understand the chronology and to understand the reason why certain events took place. In this case, I have one suggestion to make. You can watch YouTube videos regarding modern India. You can search Amit Sen Gupta. Right, he has a good video series regarding it. I've seen it personally, and it's very helpful. So you see those crash course kind of like around 1.5 to 3 hours of video together. You see that first, then you read the spectrum, right? Then you sit down and study the modern India. So the entire broad picture you will get from that video. Then you can study the modern India in your own way. And those study, right, the way you are reading it, from those areas you will be getting questions. So modern India at any cost should not be skipped. So here, geography, predominantly the questions are coming from climatology, agriculture, Indian geography. At any cost, don't skip Indian geography. You just have to read the NCERT, the 11th standard NCERT, and study and remember all those things which are given in that NCERT. Right? India, people and economy, India, people and environment. Towards the end, sorry, India, physical environment. Okay, towards the end, I'll show you the book list as well. So anyway, when it comes to the world geography, in recent years, when we look at the analysis, most number of questions are coming from climatology, also related with climate change, which is a part of environment. Geography and environment, they are highly related with each other. And when you study them as well, you have to combine them and study. Now focus on this climatology part. It will help you for your mains as well. Then in recent years, there's a huge trend that every year there are questions coming from agriculture part. Now, agriculture comes in economy as well as in geography as well. So, in geography, it will be related with major crops, the cropping pattern, the cropping season, irrigation, soil. These kind of areas come in agriculture. And in economy, the economic aspect of the agriculture, like say farm load or MSP, those kind of topics come in the economy part. So agriculture predominantly has to be studied based on the economic survey. So that also we will be discussing that, like when you should be studying the economic survey and budget. It is going to be announced on the February 1st, right? When you should start studying the economic survey and budget, we'll discuss. But coming back to this geography, so climatology, agriculture, Indian geography, and maps. Indian geography, that entirely through maps you have to cover. There is no other way around it. There's one good NCERT and there's a one good chapter in it as well, right? This physical physiography and structure, right? In the class 11th India physical environment. Read that chapter completely and learn the maps as well. And you can learn it through any atlas. I would personally suggest you Oxford Atlas, or you could get Oriental Black. Both are good. But since I'm using Oxford, right, I'll suggest you that you can stick with any latest edition of Oxford Atlas. And less priority should be given to oceanography and Earth and Universe. Right now, there are other topics like here resources or industry or geomorphology. Now, geomorphology in the last year they haven't asked questions. Maybe in 1 year or other year, all of a sudden the geomorphology's importance could increase. But as of now, based on the numbers, a rational decision would be to skip geomorphology. Now, if you can read it, good. But otherwise, you finish these topics first, and if you get time, then only you read the geomorphology part. Okay. Now comes environment. Now, regarding environment, I'll tell you this. This is one of those subjects whose syllabus is less and there are more number of questions would come from it. So never skip environment at any cost. Especially in the last year, around 20 questions came from environment. And because of this, Forest Service is also having the prelim, they're related with this. In recent years, it is expected that the geographical part, environmental part, as well as the agricultural angle these areas would be gaining more importance, which is also evident from the main questions as well. There are a lot of questions, they link geography with environment. Similarly, for prelims as well, this environmental angle is really important. And when we go through the analysis, the most important area would be protected areas. And in recent years, there are questions coming from fauna and flora as well, right? About the animals and about the species. Then there is natural vegetation. Last year, they asked a question regarding the savanna vegetation and the feature in which forest fire takes place in those areas. Now, then comes the pollution and technologies, where the questions are predominantly current affair based questions. So, suppose if benzene pollution is seen in news, they will be asking question based on that, right? Similarly, soil pollution, right? Different topics have already been asked from the pollution and technologies, and they're predominantly current affair linked. And this is one case with regarding the environment as well. Like for example, protected areas. So all the protected areas, even though you should be studying them, you should be focusing more on those areas which are frequently in news. Because the analysis shows that when, due to any reason, any protected area like a national park or biosphere reserve, anything which is in news, there is a chance that they will be, or there's a more chance that they will be asking questions based on that. So protected areas, fauna and flora, pollution and technologies, then comes act, right? The acts that are related with the environment, then organizations, right? So don't skip any of these areas. I'll tell you this, when we do the cost benefit analysis, it will take less time for you to study these areas, but there will be more output. And regarding protected areas, when it comes to protected areas as well as flora and fauna, these are big fact related topics. When you study them, you have to interlink it with the geography. Like, for example, in geography, we will be studying the mountains, right? And we will also be studying rivers. A river, as we all know, will always flow from a higher slope to the lower slope. So mountain will always be associated with rivers. And in these areas, mountainous regions, as well as there is more water, there tend to be more vegetation. So these mountains, rivers are related with vegetation. And in those vegetation or those highly vegetated areas, we have the protected areas in those regions. So when we look at protected areas, they will be related with river or mountain, and there will be specific vegetation, and there will be certain species that are protected in those areas. So all these things, protected areas, fauna and flora, you can study them by interlinking it with the mountains and the rivers. So those facts which you need to study regarding geography and environment, study them together. Now, one thing regarding these facts, when you study them, you'll easily understand. But 1 week later, you will forget them. Have you ever felt this? When you try to remember a name, a state, okay, in this state we are having this particular protected area, or anything related with map, on a later stage, you will forget them. Has this ever happened to you? If you by heart, we will forget. I have a cool trick for this. When you study these factual areas that are related with Indian geography and the environment, as I told you, study them together by combining together and study the facts in one order. For example, if you're studying the protected areas in the northwestern region, the Himalayas, study the mountains there, study the rivers there, and study the fauna and flora in that region. So that one area, you have to draw a map and mark these areas. Initially, it will take time to do that, but once you do it, you will never forget it and it will be easy for you to revise. Now, after this northwestern region, you try to study the, say, northeastern region. So in that area, cover the entire rivers, mountains, vegetation, flora, fauna, the species there, and the protected areas. Similarly, you come down towards the south. So any order you are following, for every fact regarding geography and environment, follow the same order. This will make sure this fact stay in your mind in an organized way. these ecosystem ecology, BGC cycle, the biogeochemical cycles, coral reef and wetlands. These are also recently news, the coral reef, and recently one question is coming from it. But anyway, like if you get time after studying the other areas, you can focus on the ecosystem and ecology, right? Ecosystem and ecology, I will suggest you to read it, right? Without looking at its priority, read it because it will help you to understand, say, news articles and other current affairs that are related with it. Okay. Anyway, moving on to the science and technology. So these three areas you focus on science and technology. Predominantly, the questions are coming from current affairs. And if you have good elimination skill, you will be able to find answers of science and technology. The questions are going to be application level, bit broader as well. So you cannot study the entire thing related with science and technology, but focus on these areas. Biotechnology. Last year, 6 questions came from biotechnology. Similarly, space, and then information and communication technology, right? These three areas, their basic concept, you please be thorough with. Okay, so the 80-20 rule in a realistic way, in an application level way, I want you to do that or implement that into your prelim syllabus. So earlier we have seen which subject that we need to prioritize on, and within those subjects I've given you now areas that you need to focus on. These topics, let me tell you, if you are a serious candidate who are willing to work around 8 to 10 hours daily, and if this is your dream, as you all answered initially, you have a specific dream, you have a specific reason and inspiration to prepare for this examination, find no excuse to skip any of these topics which are given shown you on the screen. Study these topics from static and forget all the other topics. There will be lot of topics. There are lot of topics. The syllabus is never going to be completed. But you study these areas and revise them completely. Multiple times you revise and forget those areas you have skipped. Maybe a friend talking to you will say that, okay, this topic, that topic. Don't talk to such people, right? You focus on what you're doing and you know what you're doing is right. Focus on these areas, right? And forget about the other areas. Because this examination is more of it happens here in our mind or in our brain, it happens. Like when you're studying economy, you will feel like I haven't studied history. So you will start worrying, okay, when am I going to study history? When you're studying history, you'll think about geography. Has this happened to you? So this, because I've seen enough people, and this is realistically what happens. We all know that this examination is having one of the highest failure rate in our nation, which is true. And it is not becoming difficult because science and technology is difficult or economy is difficult. No. These subjects, they are easy to study. But this takes more than your physical effort. This examination tests your mental strength. One example would be to focus on these priority areas and to skip the other areas and not to think about not to think about it at all. Those areas which you're skipping, shouldn't be thinking about it, right? It is difficult to do that, and that is why this examination becomes difficult, and I want you to be aware about it. That is why I'm telling you this. So since you're hearing it from me, understand this: when you study economy, you don't have to be worried about history. One solution I have, those people, those 25 students who raised hands, who get worried about other subjects, I have one solution for you. Have a proper timetable. If your mind knows when you are going to study history, right, that worry will not happen. I'll give you the timetable towards the end, and you try to stick with the timetable, and you will have, like, more, your mind will be more calm, and you will be able to focus more on the thing which you're studying. Now moving on. So the first thing, how you can do the things that the examination demands, we have seen the 80-20 rule. Now moving on to the next, the most important part: limited sources, unlimited revision. Now when I say this to students, you also must be hearing about this from different places, but it is again difficult to implement this. That is why I am emphasizing on this. So one particular subject, only one source, and that one source you have to revise multiple times. Let me tell you, being very frank, there's a person at your stage who is just starting the preparation or who is going to write the prelims, and there are these veterans who has been preparing for 3 4 years, and you're competing with those people. Does that mean you cannot clear the examination? No. What happens is that this examination for both veteran as well as you, out of the 100 questions, maximum they will be knowing or you will be knowing around 25 to 30 questions, not more than that. I can assure you this. Whether you are a veteran or you are a beginner, you will only be knowing 25 to 30 questions. That UPSC will make sure that every year question will be fresh. Now there are numerous coaching institutes are there, including us, and there are numerous mock tests being conducted. Numerous thousands and 10,000s of questions and topics are coming out. But that 100 question of UPSC questions of UPSC, that will be fresh. And just based on your knowledge alone, you will not crack all the questions. So I don't want, this is one way in which beginners make a mistake. They go to the examination with an expectation that they will be knowing 60 to 70 questions. And when they turn pages, initial 3 pages, they are unable to get more questions, 1 or 2 questions, and finding answers. In those cases, they will panic because they are expecting them to know 60 questions. Unrealistic. You should only expect say 20 to 30 questions. You will be only knowing that maximum 30 is maximum. But does that mean you cannot clear the examination? No, that's not what I'm trying to tell you. The remaining questions can be answered in a smart way. And for that, whatever you have studied, you should be confident on that. Realistically, when the question comes, you have to think about that question using all the things which you have studied earlier. You may not be knowing the question directly, but you will take guesses. You will take guesses. So I'm not talking about wild guess, rather educated guess. Now, in order for you to think about in that way, this limited static portion, you should be confident in those portions you have studied. And this is the prime reason why I'm telling you, you have to limit the sources and you have to revise it multiple times. Okay. Now, like for example, if you consider same history, there is Bipin Chandra, there is Spectrum. You don't have to read both. If you have already read Bipin Chandra, stick with it. But if you're going to read Spectrum, then Spectrum you stick with it and read it multiple times. Right? Don't read Spectrum one time, then don't read the Bipin Chandra next. Rather than second reading has to be Spectrum itself. That's my point. Again, this is difficult to skip portion, right? But limit your resource and revise it multiple times. Now I'll give you the book list and the resources that you need to follow. So here, regarding economy, there are 9th to 12th standard NCERTs are there. Then there is economic survey and budget, and choose certain important sections, the topics which we discussed earlier. Only those portions you read from Ramesh Singh. The PDF would be available, right? Then ancient India, you stick with R. Sharma, an old NCERT. Similarly for medieval, right? You can choose those areas which are discussed earlier from Satish Chandra. Then, right, when it comes to modern, stick with Spectrum. Okay. Now, regarding Spectrum, as I told you, read it multiple times rather than skipping textbooks. Then, when it comes to geography, there are 3 NCERTs that you need to focus on. The first one, 11th standard NCERT, India Physical Environment. Then, for world geography, 11th standard NCERT again, world physical geography. Then, 12th standard NCERT, India People and Economy, for resources, agriculture, and industries. Now, as I told you earlier, this entire thing cannot be read. The entirely Ramesh cannot be properly read and studied, right? So in those areas, what is our approach? Priority areas. Give priority to those areas and keep aside your perfectionism. It's not going to work. Okay. So keep aside your perfectionism and stick with those priority areas. If you invest time in, there will be more output from it. And as I given you, those green color and light green areas you study first. Then you can go to for extra reading. If you get extra time, then in that case you can go for that. right? Now moving on to the next subject, which is environment. So basically, you can study the Shankar IAS itself, right? The good textbook is there, and again, there are a lot of chapters which are unnecessary, and those priority areas I showed you: act, organization, protected areas, and concepts. Those areas you focus on from the Shankar IAS. Leave the remaining chapters. Now, when you're leaving chapters, don't feel bad about it. Just doing something good. You're making good use of your time, and you're doing a smart work. Okay, then unit 10 of NCERT biology, right? Certain questions, right, will come from it as well. Now for polity, Lakshmikant is more than enough. Again, pick and choose the, like, in the chapters to be read from Lakshmikant. And then there is this NCERT, India Constitution of Work, which is also really good. You read the NCERT first. If you are facing difficulty in polity, then you have to read the Lakshmikant. Okay, and in Lakshmikant as well, as I told you, in the case of Shankara's textbook, entire chapter don't have to be read. Rather, choose subjects. One way I'll tell you this: any part of this textbook you're going to read, okay, you browse in internet, especially in YouTube, how to read Lakshmikant, right? Watch 3 or 4 strategy videos. It'll take like the 10 minutes, 20 minutes of yours, and common things will be there. And take those common things and read it that way, and focus on those priority areas which I told you. So if you know that entire, like, the big picture of a textbook, it will become easier for you to read that. Understand? So otherwise, without knowing, if you're going to start with Lakshmikant, read page by page, it will take 2 months for you to finish. Okay, don't do that. Rather, pick and choose and selective topics, read them thoroughly and read them repeatedly. So the second point was limited sources, unlimited revision. Okay, now moving on to the current affairs part. So when it comes to current affairs, in the last 4 years, we could say that around 30 to 50 questions out of the 100 prelims questions are coming from current affairs. Either they are direct current affair questions, or the question is coming because of its current affair relevance. For example, directly a current affair will not come, rather a static portion which is related with that current affair, they would be asking questions from it. Okay, now regarding current affair, all those who are attending this session, the next week on Sunday at same time at 7 p.m., next Sunday at 7 p.m., we'll be having an exclusive session on current affairs. It cannot be discussed in this session how you have to study current affairs. There are a lot of things that has to be said. Okay, so please do register for the next session and attend the next Sunday session at 7 p.m. Like today, we'll discuss about how you can proceed with current affairs. Okay, anyway, just understand the relevance of current affairs. Around, like, 30 to 50% of the questions are coming from current affairs or current affair related questions, and it has to be studied in a smart way. For example, if you take a, say, a famous magazine, there will be 10,000 topics in it. All 10,000 topics it cannot study. Rather, you have to understand how they are asking questions and choose those questions and answer them. In a prelims paper, it can always be divided into, there are easy questions, there are moderate questions, then there are hard questions. Okay, now these hard questions will be difficult for you to answer, and if you're going behind, right, certain study pattern with which we can answer these hard questions, our time for the easy and moderate will be lost. Now the good approach would be, put yourself in a position where you can answer easy and moderate questions, both static as well as both current affair. You cannot skip static entirely, you cannot skip current affair entirely, but you should be in a position where you can answer easy to moderate question of both static as well as current affair. Now in this stage, with around 129 days left, I'll tell you this easy part of the static portion can be answered properly if you study those areas which I told you, the priority areas, right? And in case of current affairs, If you prepare them thoroughly, the questions would be easier. The thing is regarding current affairs, the duration is very long. They're asking as much as 1.5 years current affairs. It's not just immediate 1 year or 6 months. So to know and remember and all those areas of current affairs, it becomes difficult. But if you remember it, if you study the topic, finding answer would be easy. So I'll tell you, invest more time in this current affairs, right? And you will be able to compensate those areas which we left in static. You will be able to compensate with current affairs. So regarding a current affairs strategy, which will be discussed in detail on next Sunday 7 p.m. Please do save our WhatsApp number. I hope you all must have been contacted from our inquiry team, and follow the WhatsApp status update and social media, and you will be getting the registration link of the current affairs session. Anyway, moving on to the next part in how to implement, right? The thing is practice. Now, what do I mean by practice? It is nothing else the mock test. Now, we have studied the static portion, we have studied the static portion, and we have studied the basic books, then we have studied the current affairs. Now it is time for us to practice. As I told you earlier, if you remember, you will be knowing 25 to 35 questions. This is what I told you earlier, out of 100, no matter how much you study. Now, if you make all of the 35 questions right, then you will get 70 marks. Will you clear in that case? So regarding the practice part, there are two ways in which you need to practice this. One, with the model questions, the MCQ. There are numerous MCQs. We have our own test series where we provide 30 tests. Subjectwise test will be there. 4 current affair will be there. CSAT tests and full tests, right? So similarly, there are various other places that are providing the test. Also, from various other platforms, you'll be able to download them for free as well. Whatever be the case, whichever quality you feel, which one is quality test, do follow that and take as many as MCQ as possible. As many as MCQ, right? Do as many as MCQ as possible. Now, this MCQ solving is a good strategy to study those areas that you have left out. I'll tell you this one way. You maintain separate sheet of paper for your when you're studying this, when you're taking the mock test. Now, after taking the mock test, many people or the most of the people, what they do, they take test, they look at the right answers, they look at the wrong answers, they see the score, they move on. The thing is, if you do this for the prelims examination, you're not making maximum use of this. Rather, what we need to do is that after the test, that day itself, complete the test analysis. Go through each and every question. And those areas, say first question, you knew that first question and you made it right. Okay, read that explanation. Then you come to the second question. You don't know that question. In that case, if it is related with history, have in your A4 sheet regarding history, write down that point from the explanation. And also refer from the standard textbook that part. Okay. Now, when you do this, say maintain separate sheet for history, economy, geography, and so on and so forth. For each individual subject, maintain a separate sheet where you are analyzing the test, and those areas you don't know, you are writing it there. Now, what this does is that at the end of this lot of mock tests which you're going to take, at the end of which you will be having notes with you, that is a high chance that you will forget them, that you made wrong, that you don't know. So you have segregated those topics from the MCQ which you don't know. Now, what is the next step to do this? Easy. You have to revise this multiple times. Right? So earlier, certain static portions we skipped, but those static portions can be covered in an effective way through this MCQ solving technique. Okay, so practice makes it perfect, and through practice, you will understand the elimination method. You must have heard about this again, numerous videos, many people talk about it. You will only learn it when you implement it. So you cannot go to this examination with this mindset that I will study the entire thing, then only I will appear for the prelims. That's never going to finish. Your syllabus is not going to finish. with whatever little knowledge you have. Start attempting your mock and use all different type of strategies. There are keywords, like this is also a topic for another discussion, how to do the proper elimination things, but in a quick way, focus on keywords in the statements like only, can, maybe, or may, possibly. These kind of statements vaguely point out there are multiple, like with this analysis, if you give importance to these keywords, you will be able to eliminate certain statements and find answer. Now, this you will understand when you solve the MCQ. And second way in which you will understand this is through the previous year questions. Now, previous year question, again, super important. Whenever I say this, the people take this like they will not implement this. This is one of the biggest mistakes I've received feedback from students. When they tell me, sir, I couldn't clear the prelims, I ask them, did you solve the previous year question? They tell me, I solved few of them. That's a wrong approach. Now forget about all those topics we have left behind. Rather, you focus on the previous question. Most importantly, say for a subject like quality, 95 to 2021 question entirely has to be solved. And the priority has to be given to 2012 to 2021. This is when after the pattern has changed. Before this, the questions were very factual questions. Now the questions are more analytical questions. So you focus on these previous questions and try to practice them and try to apply this elimination technique and different methods in them. So you can eliminate and find the answer. And when you solve previous questions, what happens is that you're getting used with the UPSC's question itself. So how they make a statement go wrong, things like that you will be used to. Now, one thing I want to know, how many of you attending this session has already taken mock test from any outside place, any like an institute or any mock test or any free test conducted by. So when you go through those questions, you will understand that they make statements go wrong. Maybe one fact they will change. So if you solve those kind of questions, UPSC is not going to set such standard of questions. So to get used with UPSC standard questions, the best way is to do the previous questions itself. Okay. Now the next thing I'm going to tell you is regarding the timeline. So in this session, I've covered the most of the things I told you. We have covered why, we have covered what, and covered how. Now it is up to you to implement this strategy. And I am going a next step and I'm giving you a timeline to make you aware how much time is left. And in that available time, what you can do. Starting from this week, we have around 19 weeks left. So you don't think about the entire prelims examination as a huge mountain. Take it 1 week at a time. Okay, take it 1 week at a time. Okay, so today 2 weeks, the initial 2 weeks you give for economy. As I told you, those priority areas, only focus on those areas. With this, along with this, you study the current affairs of Jan 2022. You go backwards. Okay, from January you go backward, right? Similarly, all this till this 12 week, you should be studying each week one subject and then 1 month of current affair. If you haven't joined any current affair course, if you're self-studying, all these techniques I'm telling you since you're self-studying, right? So even if you're joining, like we have different other arrangements, but if you're not even joining also, joining any course with us also, you can do the same thing, right? So 2 weeks economy, then 2 weeks polity. Now whatever you could finish in this 2 weeks, be done with it. Okay, then after the 6th week, come to the revision part. So everything you have studied in here has to be revised in this week. And every week, it consists of 6 days of studying and one entire day of revision. Now think about this. There are a lot of topics to study. Now when you study a topic, if you don't revise it, you will forget them. Then there is no point in studying that. Now, before going to a new topic or a new subject, should make sure that whatever you have studied so far is with you. So that is why the seventh week it is completely revision of the static. Then eighth week you have to study economic survey and budget. Now after 1 week, like this 23rd, right? Next 30, and on February 1st, we'll be having budget and economic survey. And many people will start uploading videos and discussions and all. You wait after some time, give it some 2 to 3 weeks. Good analysis videos will be available. Okay. So don't try to study the economic survey and budget. Whenever it is released, all of a sudden it is released, don't go and read them. Rather, you wait for the good analysis to be released. Then you study that. That is why it is given here in the eighth week. Then geography 1 week, environment 1 week, based on the importance of the number of the questions that have been asked from it. Now, the 11th week, you study the science and technology. It will take just 1 or 2 days. And remaining days, you invest time in the pending topics. Pending topics are those priority areas, the bright green color topics. Okay, any of those areas you couldn't complete, try to invest this time there. Now, after this, at the 11th week, you will be done with the major static portion that you need to do. Along with this, as I told you, each month of current affair has to be studied. And another good strategy would be to take mock test or to solve questions. These questions they may not be UPSC standard questions, but you try to you get used to solving questions. So when you're studying economy, you solve questions from it. Either you can get previous question, solve it, or find MCQ, solve it. Or if you join after series, there will be subject-wise tests. You can solve those subject-wise tests after studying economy at your convenience. But make sure you study current affairs and mock test as well as the static portion. The primary importance should be given to finishing the static portion, right? The current affair as well as that in mock test I told you should be given less priority. Less priority that doesn't mean that you shouldn't be doing it. Okay, major priority should be given to economy, then current affair and mock test. And towards the end, they say 12th week. 12th week means 3 months, right? 3 months is over. So we will almost be, you will be almost towards the end of the March. Okay, so sorry, end of this April. At that time, you again do the revision of the static, then take the mock test, right? So in a week, 3 mock tests will do. And 1 week you completely invest for the current affair revision, which you have studied so far. If you cover 1 month of current affairs in 1 week, by 12th week you will be covering almost 1 year of current affairs. At your stage, that will be good coverage, but make sure you revise them properly. Now, if you look at this timetable, there are multiple rounds of revision. First revision is on the every 7th day. Then after this, we revise at regular intervals. Now, after this time period, your knowledge building should be done. So this period is predominantly your knowledge building period. After this, it has to be done with it. Then you have to focus more on your revision. Whatever you have studied so far has to be revised properly. Then you have to get used with the previous questions. So towards the end, that last 1 month, try to solve the previous question, because before giving a prelims, you will get used with the UPSC standard questions itself. Okay. Now this is the whole strategy. So we have around 129 days left, and those remaining 1 week, as I told you, completely invest in your time. I hope you liked this session, and predominantly what we have discussed in this session, the key areas, right, of each and every subject. Then we have studied about the materials, right, the materials that you need to read, then the revision tactics, okay, as well as the mock test and previous question. If I am to sum up, this 4 pillars, I would tell you, which are very important: the core static portions, reading material, then the current affairs, and their revision of all these, and the fourth one would be the mock test. Okay, so I hope you like this session, and I will wait here till, like, if you have any queries, feel free to ask your queries. And we have a program, Focus Prelims 2022, where we will be giving you classes for all these subjects: economy, polity, history, and you can readily watch them. You don't, there are video podcasts. You can watch those classes at your convenience, and you can pick and choose topics. Suppose if you want to study external sector, you pick topic from that and watch the class, then read the material from there itself. So you don't have to go anywhere else in search of the material. All the book list I told you earlier, we have compiled in our material: geography, environment, history, and like in economy, polity, and polity as well as like say modern India. We have a good PPT based, good PDF materials there. You don't have to read the spectrum, compiled everything in one place. So if you want to join the course, you can do it in a easier way. And even if you're not joining, if you follow this week plan, I can assure you that you will be in a position where you can clear the examination. So make this 2022 prelims examination, make this your serious attempt.